Hey, pal.
Here's your host, Randy Tobler.
I would do NBC. I do Fox too. But right now we have to determine whether or not we even want to do it. We had a great night last night. We won the debate according to every poll, every single poll. I think that, are we going to do a rematch? I just don't know. But we'll think about it.
Well, we're going to fact-check Donald Trump's post-debate analysis. We won every poll. Welcome into Wake Up
I don't know about
Missouri.
that, Donald.
Producer Hannah, can you find a poll that says that Donald Trump won the debate the other night? But there's good news. There's good news. Producer Hannah's there. John Marsh there as well. And, of course, Stephanie is out on assignment today. We will await her return whenever that happens and anxiously see what she is up to. The world traveler, Stephanie. Not out today. And Brian Hauswirth, of course, will pop in a little bit later. Now, speaking of popping in and out, I'm thrilled about what's going on here. I am thrilled watching the studio monitor about this SpaceX Polaris Dawn mission. I'm just a space nerd. I don't know. I grew up with the evolution of the space age and manned space flight, and we're having the first. And Hannah, you'll have to make a comment on the quality of these, the fashion quality of these spacesuits. The first civilian spacewalk.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty cool, and they're not the big bulky spacesuits.
No, they're kind of they almost look like race car drivers.
Ah, that's it. I couldn't put it. Well, I was thinking maybe some kind of advanced Lululemon outfit. I didn't know, sort of.
You slap a NASCAR logo on the front there, and I think they're onto something.
Okay, interesting. Well, we'll have to see. I mean, I think it's exciting. They had to depressurize the whole cabin. They had to depressurize the whole cabin, and because all four of the astronauts have to be in the vacuum. They don't have a vacuum lock, so everyone puts on the protective spacesuit that gives them a pressurized environment. And meanwhile, they depressurize the cabin so they can open the hatch. And just a few minutes ago, they opened the hatch, and out walks this guy. And it looks like he's just got sort of like handrails on a walker. You know, like you see, if you've had surgery and you have to use a walker, or elderly people use a walker. It looks like the handrails atop the hatch, and the guy is just sort of poking his head out like Punxsutawney Phil. And he's just hanging out, sort of. Now, I don't know if he's going to, on his tether, go out and just sort of float around aimlessly or not. We'll have to see what happens. But it's really exciting. This is a partnership. One of the NASA astronauts was on. I heard him talking about it. Not under the supervision of NASA, but a partnership. So I don't know what that means, but it's really cool because even neater about this is it saves taxpayers money, as best I can tell. This Jared Isaacman, who had been, I guess, in orbit before, had gone up in space, but he's going to actually, I guess he's the first one out doing the spacewalk. And then there's an engineer. There's a SpaceX engineer, a woman who is going to, I think, then do the second civilian commercial spacewalk. How cool is that? Everyone's always been NASA. This is all commercial. That's great. Really
I don't know, though. I know our NASA astronauts, they go through years usually of training for these orbits.
Yeah.
And now we're just sending anybody up there. That seems a little sketch.
Don't you think this is in the style, in the mold of Elon Musk, though, right?
Oh, for sure.
Let's make technology usable for everyone. Let's scale it up to where it's not just for the rich and famous, but eventually, hopefully, maybe we can send John and Hannah up there and do you guys do a remote reporting from out there. Wouldn't that be fun?
I don't know. I'm a little dicey about some of the private space flights, and being, like Hannah said, not some long-trained astronaut. Most of the original ones were all military test pilots. Right. Before that, to just sort of put on the on the spacesuit and just go wander around outside 300 miles above the Earth. Man, I don't know if I've got that much of a
I don't know.
Pushing the envelope kind of thing.
I just think that sometimes there are certain professions that should require training. I'm just saying.
The biggest thing that worries me that would freak me out about this, have you ever been to Huntsville, Alabama, and done the G-Force ride there?
No, I haven't.
They have a ride there where they go, and you basically experience, like, I don't know what the number of G's is, but just briefly for a second. Man, I don't know. What kind of G do they get up to? 4, 5, 6? just getting there. I would really think that the spacewalk would be cool. Seeing Earth from orbit, seeing the moon from out of Earth's atmosphere.
And you're outside the atmosphere, so you're not pulling any G's. You're weightless.
Right. But I mean, getting there as the rocket is taking off, I don't know, that's the one.
There you go.
You see people, that look like some kind of a filter on a TikTok video, that they use with the lips are all back by your ears and the nose is all smashed and everything's weird.
Well, you've seen the pictures of the fighter pilots when they, have to qualify on the centrifuge. My dad had to go through that when he was flying fast movers.
What was that like? I'll bet that experience was something. Man.
Well, they tried to get you to G-lock and pass out is the whole intention of it.
Well, alrighty then.
All
so
right,
you can experience, what fighter pilots. Anybody's seen Top Gun Maverick and all, and they start G-locking, and then the guy passes out, and Maverick has to go down and wake him up and all that stuff.
And there's a debate fallout. We'll be talking about that. The veto session yesterday. Representative Dave Griffith will join us to talk to us about that and what transpired. I don't think there was much news out of there, John, was there?
No. Well, it's going to be a brief discussion with Griff, I think. I think they brought up, on the House side anyway, one veto and talked about it with some funding for mental health and senior services. Didn't go anywhere, and none of the veto overrides were successful, and they gavelled it to a conclusion.
Yeah, sort of just a perfunctory session they had there.
They have to by law.
Is that it? They have to have the session?
Yeah, veto session is in the state statutes. Not a special session, but a veto session.
And then there's this interesting moment when yesterday in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, we got to break this down a little bit. 573-874-9390. So Joe Biden visited a fire station.
He sure did.
Apparently he was there with Kamala Harris. I didn't see Kamala. But people inside, this was
she went back in her house. She didn't see her shadow.
This was a MAGA heavy crowd, and there were pictures later on with him with a bunch of kids, and the majority of them had Trump 24 shirts on, T-shirts, and then some old guy says, "Hey, I got a Trump hat on. You should wear this, you old fart." His words, okay, and put on the hat. Trump actually puts on the Trump 24 hat.
Biden.
I say Trump? Biden puts on the Trump 24 hat. I'm looking at the Trump 24 hat and saying Trump. And I'm thinking, how interesting is that? I wonder.
And he's like smiling.
He's smiling. And I think
Donald Trump offered Kamala one the other night.
I think he's probably just having some fun with it. At this point, what does he have to lose? But you got to wonder if it's not a little bit of a jab. If it's not sort of a de-endorsement, or maybe I'm reading too much into it. I think if I'd been the victim of a coup like that, I'd find a cute way to maybe get back at it in a very sly kind of a way. What do you think?
I don't necessarily think that Joe Biden has enough, this is going to sound horrible, mental acuity.
You're giving him too much credit.
Yeah.
Brian, did you see where Biden put on the Trump hat there in Shanksville, Pennsylvania?
No, I did not.
It was really cute. Epic. I don't know.
I went to,
and he looked happy. He was smiling.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that. I did see the picture of President Biden and former President Trump at Ground Zero, but I wasn't aware of that. I was at the ceremony yesterday in Columbia at Mizzou, and I got to tell you, it was tremendous.
What ceremony was that?
That would have been the 9/11 Patriot Day ceremony at Mizzou that took place in Traditions Plaza yesterday. A lot of students, a lot of soldiers, President Choi, Mayor Buffalo. I've been running audio in newscasts with her, but the pipe and drums from the Boone County Fire District, those bagpipes, there's just something about the music. I actually made a story just out of that soundbite with the mayor about I don't know what it is. As soon as they start playing, people start sobbing. It is amazing, and they do a great job. But it was a short ceremony, but very impressive as well. President Choi there, he doesn't like the headlines. He kind of likes to be in the background. He was standing in the back with Jesus Ossetti, kind of in the back by a tree, but he was certainly there, and a lot of soldiers as well. It was impressive. And then I spoke last night to first responders in Moberly and honored to do that as well. Big turnout as well. For
Was there
that.
a large crowd?
About 150 to maybe 175 for that, and I'll talk more about that.
No
a little bit
protests,
later.
no anything going on otherwise? Yeah.
You're talking about first responders protests?
Yeah,
or-
well, anyone. I mean, these days people like to protest at events with all the Israel-Hamas thing going on and everything.
There were no protests at Mizzou, and there were no protests
Good.
in Moberly. It was
Very
all
nice.
all peaceful
Good.
and just tremendous
Yeah.
atmosphere.
Solemn the way it should be.
It was solemn, and a lot of comments from law enforcement around the Moberly area. They'd like to have our signal go farther to the north, closer to your farm. They love the station up there.
I know. I can
They
only
do.
get it on half the farm, and then I lose signal. Hannah, can you see what you can do about that? Can you turn up the power? So
Yeah,
we
let
can
me
just-
call the FCC.
Yeah, call the FCC.
and see if we can get that pushed through. I'll get right on that.
Exactly. The station, of course, the stick is in Fayette, but yeah, that's a lot of good comments on that.
That's great. What else is in the news stack this morning? So, because we're going to be talking about it throughout the morning.
I think that the two, obviously, you're going to hear from the mayor. I talked to the mayor pushing back against Matt Nichols. They respect each other quite a bit, but you'll hear this at the bottom of the hour on the Eagle for sure. She's going to push back against Mr. Nichols,
Go figure.
saying that she's increased the budget of CPD with her and the council by 17.5%. Her comment to me was, "I'm excited to see the flock cameras come forward." End of quote. Randy, that's brand new. She hasn't said, we didn't know how she was going to vote. She's excited to see it. She voted for Fusis, so she's pushing back against that on a little bit. And the other two big stories are an April homicide on Premier Lane. We've got got an arrest. We have someone detained. Well, they're calling it somebody detained. Well, let me tell you, somebody being detained is an arrest. It's a little difficult to talk about because they're a juvenile, so we don't know if it's a male, female, age, and unless that person is charged as an adult, we really won't have a whole lot of information about it. But we're going to talk about that throughout the morning. And for Tiger fans, this is a formality, but it is a big deal. The Memorial Stadium project in Columbia, some say, well, it's just a formal vote. It's more than that, folks. The SEC commissioner himself, Greg Sankey, is getting up this morning in Birmingham. He's going to be boarding an airplane, Southwest Airlines, his favorite airline down there. He's going to go to Kansas City where the board of curators are going to meet. He's going to speak to the board and address the press. So, yes, this is a big deal. I've got renderings up, 939theeagle.com, KWS.com. Take a look at that if you're a Tiger fan, and take a look at that facility. Holy smokes. Wow. That's pretty impressive.
So
$250 million.
I thought this was a done deal. They were going to slap some paint on it and some new chairs and whatever. But this is a big deal.
A little bit more than that.
It's more than that. And this was more of an initial vote in April.
Yeah.
They're looking at 98,000 square feet. They're looking at enclosing essentially the stadium's north end. And then, as I talk about in the story, 51 new suites. They're looking at cabanas. If you've ever been on a beach, you've been, at a beach, You've seen these cabanas. Essentially, you could watch a football game from a cabana.
Oh my God!
And it sounds awesome with quote large social spaces in covered settings. Take a look at the renderings, folks. I think you're going to be impressed, or maybe you won't, but I think you'll definitely be interested in this.
How many million?
$250 million.
Yeah, chump change.
But the M will remain, right,
The
Brian?
Rock M Hill will remain. Tradition Rich Elements, that is the students and the alums definitely wanted that to stay. But
It'd be a shame to close in the north. You can't see things that you can't see in then as you drive along Broadway there, along Stadium.
That's why I want people to take a look at the website, because you can see take a look at it, Randy, on Stadium. You're exactly right. You've got basically 2 or 3 stories that's going to block that view, whereas opposed to now, you can kind of look in and kind of see some things. You won't be able to do that anymore on's this
A lot of
once this
tailgaters
happens.
in that parking lot across Stadium like to watch the big screen. We've
Yes.
seen that over the years.
Yes, we have. But yeah, that's a vote today. You're right, right about that, John. And a lot of excitement.
Speaking of the Tigers, of course, there's a big game Saturday. Saturday late morning, right? Kickoff time,
11:45 a.m.
and the Tiger tailgate will kick off a couple hours early. I'll be out there. Who's else going to be out there? You're going to be out there this week? No,
I will
No?
be. I'll be at Learfield doing the scoreboard show.
Oh, that's right. You're doing the scoreboard show, and look forward to seeing you there. Make sure you get your tickets at one of many sponsors. You can see all of the opportunities to get your tickets. They're free. Vaughn Pool and Spas, Boone Hospital Wound Healing Center, Club Car Wash, Big O Tires, Twain Missouri Barbecue and Tap Room, walk-ons. They provide the food. Lots of good food and libation out there. Buck Heights, Shangri-La, Muttrix Automotive, Shepherd's Distributing. So lots of great sponsors. And stop by and get your tickets there. You have to have a ticket, but they're free, right?
And they are free.
And that's 9:45. It opens.
9:45. And Randy, you're going to see someone at the Mizzou football game on Saturday. Big name, Alyssa Lang herself. Alyssa Lang, if you don't know that name, Google it. Big name reporter from the SEC Network coming in to do the sideline reporting. Big name.
Okay.
We should love to get her on the show sometime.
Okay, sounds cool. All right. Brian Hauswirth, John Marsh. big loss for Trump, although we'll have to see if that changes things. What's going on elsewhere in the Daily DC Rundown, John?
Well, there's another guy who's after him. Attorney General Merrick Garland set to, and this is CNN's copy, so be entertained, set to slam efforts to turn the Justice Department into a political weapon during a fiery speech set for this morning. The speech will focus on protecting the long-standing norms of the Justice Department. Garland will decry the escalation of attacks against his career staff over the past several years, and they come as Donald Trump has claimed and has been evidence that the Justice Department has been weaponized against him amid his prosecutions, and says he would politicize the department should he return to the Oval Office.
Donald Trump is not just running against a candidate. He's running against an entire system.
I don't know. I
and
think
the
she has a point.
and a story we probably should save, I think, for the morning bell. But Boeing faces a massive strike, like 33,000 folks. Union vote today. They could go out on strike and have to build airplanes that the doors actually don't blow out.
Oh, yeah, and I have some news about that Boeing Starliner as it returned as well. So Don Luzader in Springfield, Mike Murphy on the team, is that when they report it, you can count on it, right? When Hannah says she was at the game between Centralia and California and here's what happened, you can count on it. When Hannah talks about, something she saw out and about, or I report, or Stephanie reports that she was at a meeting, or
pumpkin spice being released in stores.
Sadly, we have to hear about that all the time, too.
You're welcome. Hey, everyone has their strengths.
I know, that's good. No, I get it. I'm a freak about these spacewalks. I mean, if I could just I could be glued to the spacewalk for all day long.
And soil erosion.
And soil erosion. I don't like ruts. No ruts in my property, please. Do not.
And managed health care.
Do not, do not create ruts. Okay.
And string cheese.
Oh, it's great. I only have one. I could only find one in the drawer today, so it might be a tough day. But I am increasingly worried about, look, everyone in the Wake Up family, you guys are all successful. You're going to work this morning. You may own a business. You may be a management of business. Maybe you're out in the field solving problems for people in behalf of the business. You're smart people. We're all discerning people, right? We went to school. We graduated. We got other degrees. We read. I don't know what to believe anymore. The other night, the other morning, we played a bite where a citizen of Springfield, Ohio said they're eating the ducks. They're taking the geese and beheading them, the Haitian immigrants there, which have expanded that city by about a third, by 20,000, gone from 40,000 to 60,000, Springfield, Ohio. Well, then that was allegedly debunked because the police and the city manager and everyone, according to left-wing media outlets, said it's not true. Donald Trump gets thumped for saying this the other night.
To our country and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country. And it's a shame. As far as rallies are concerned, as far as the reason.
No, it's not fun to laugh about immigrants eating your pet, but it is, in a way, it's humorous because it can't be that pervasive.
Former president has the delivery. You got to give him credit for the delivery.
They're eating the dogs. Okay, but now there are people pushing back on that. And so you begin to wonder what is true. Okay, and here's my point. Okay, so I'm trying to find out, is there any truth to that? Are the Haitians either taking animals out of the, ducks or geese out of the pond, or cats walking around, and is there any truth to it? Well, okay, so I'm searching around, and John, I see this. Here, they're either eating the cats or the dogs or they're not. Well, then I find this. Here's some video. Now, this looks like a police cam. I don't know where it's from, but it says Motorola Solutions on it. Looks like a body cam. There's two officers with a woman behind her, a woman of color with her hands behind her back, like she's in cuffs. And here's just a little audio from this. I'm not sure this is Springfield, but here it is.
Smile over your teeth. Go like this. Did you eat that cat? Did you eat it? No, why'd you kill it?
I don't know.
Get in there. It's ridiculous.
Okay, so they're putting her in the car. Okay, and you're thinking, well, maybe there's something to it. Is this real? So I go on and I watch it further, and here's a little bit of, now they're interviewing, I guess, witnesses and people around. Here's the same officer. Here we go.
Did you guys see all this?
No, we pulled up and she was just laying there with me.
Did you see her eating it?
Eating it.
She was eating it?
Yeah. She said, but it's blood on her shoes. She said she stumped it out.
Okay. Now, is it true? Is it not? And
let's hope it's true. It's a good story.
It's a great story. And in the same vein,
although seemingly very far-fetched, I'm skeptical.
You think so?
Probably wise.
Yeah, it's good to be skeptical, but I don't know.
I kind of buy into it, though, if they're eating ducks and geese. I mean, that's kind of
okay. So
prescribed fare.
So, okay, you're right. I mean, it would make sense. So,
I think it's like kind of odd that like a guy like me has to come out from doing what I do on a daily basis to have fun because I see what's going on in these streets and I see you guys just sitting up there in them comfy chairs and suits and I'm getting out here every day and I'm broadcasting this and you guys are just sitting up there in suits or something. Like I really challenge you guys to get out here and do something. These Haitians are running into trash cans. They're running into buildings. They're running into they flipping cars in the middle of the street. And I don't know how like y'all can be comfortable with this. Like I don't know like who's getting paid from it. I honestly feel like someone's getting paid from it in the background. You got a bunch of people on a bus getting dropped off at a gas station to come down here. I know a single mom that FaceTimed me this morning at the welfare office that really need something. And it's nothing but immigrants over there. And I don't even want to seem like I'm coming down on the immigrants because it's the people that's bringing them down here. Because wherever they're at, that's what they're used to, bro. They're in the park grabbing up ducks by their neck and cutting their head off and walking off with them and eating them like.
This guy, does that sound like an act? Does that sound? Maybe he's not really seen it or heard it, but I mean. So, okay, then I'm looking at the Clark County Communications Center call detail report. This looks like a police report. And you look over and under the detail, it says each had one goose, 4 geese stolen. The Toyota is a newer model. Now, is this an AI-generated police report, or is there really something to it?
You kind of wondered.
And I only say this, ladies and gentlemen, to caution you. You have to ask yourself. Now, ABC fact-checked Trump on that, of course, the other night and let Kamala get away with the bloodbath hoax, the fine people hoax, lying about police dying on January 6th hoax, violent crime being down hoax, and not wanting to take away your guns, right? I mean, they said Kamala doesn't want to take away your guns when she's clearly on tape saying that. Man, I don't know what to believe anymore. I just don't know what to believe. And you have to be careful in this election cycle. And you wonder, I mean, Hannah, we've been spoofed before.
Oh, yeah. Even my little Gen Z self who grew up literally sitting through lectures in school as young as middle school that I can remember, talking about how to use the internet and make sure you're using a reliable source. And yeah, I've been duped before. I famously thought that the ball that they drop on New Year's Eve?
Yes, the crystal ball.
Yeah, I fell for an edited video that showed it exploding. And I was like, why is no one talking about this? And it's because it was
Now see, and here's where we're at in America. Here's where we're at in America in 2024. So Brandon says it was a news article. Did you see the picture of the Haitian immigrant carrying 2 geese in his hands? Alan, on the other hand, who's a bit of a detractor, but we thank you for listening, Alan. He says
he keeps us accountable and he calls us on some of our stuff.
He says, "Oh my God, now you're pushing eating the dogs and cats crap." Alan, listen. Don't get reactive. Don't have a preformed opinion. I am presenting things that are out there, and I am saying, is it true? Is it not? And Alan, are you trying to tell me that if you see something or someone, I assume you're on the other side of the political fence, if you see something, if now Kamala is saying that she's not against taking away AR-15s in a mandatory confiscation, it's not a buyback, it's confiscation under threat of, imprisonment or fines or whatever from the government, and then there's something that says she's not. Are you trying to say that, oh, that's all good? We're to believe that. And I can't say, well, that's InfoWars. Come on, Alan. I'm saying we have to be careful.
Well, and I think we're just speculating and talking about the fact that it seems a little sketch.
I just love the memes that came out of it with the food truck.
Oh, yeah.
Haitian barbecue, dogs, cats, geese.
If nothing else, the memes that have come out of this have been a gift, a good distraction for right now.
I might point out that anybody who's tried to fish at Bender Lake and Bender Park in Jefferson City would welcome Haitians showing up to eat all the Canada geese that that hang out there and leave their leavings everywhere.
Don't a lot of like the geese and things and ducks that you see at parks, aren't they pretty gross and carry diseases? Or is that another hoax I fell for?
I don't know. I think they put a lot of ammonia into the ponds and lakes, and that can cause a lot of algae growth.
You know what through a goose, I think, is the old line, and there's a reason why they say that.
Just another day at the Capitol. So you got
veto this.
Yeah, right. So now Sean and Tara get down to the truth. Sean says 10,000 plus immigrants dumped into a community. If they're not eating dogs, cats, ducks, and geese, what are they eating? That's the point. Whose stores are they raiding? Whose taxpayer dollars are they taking from resources and that's for citizen services that could be used for taxpayer services, taxpayer programs, taxpayer infrastructure? That is the bigger question. Tara says that too. Whether they're eating that, or not, that's just a distraction. And this is absolutely right.
Good
But
point.
again,
That's what we've heard out of even the leadership in New York City, saying we're overwhelmed and putting all of our resources into the immigrants who've been dropped off.
Yeah, I for one would be. What is to keep that from happening in a very progressive, radical Marxist community? I'm talking from a leadership standpoint. I mean, it tends to be that way, tolerating homeless and homeless hotels that we're building. What's to keep that from happening here? Who's to say that the progressives aren't going to invite the dump-offs here? Bring us your cold and you're tired and hungry, Bring them to Columbia because we'll take care of them, not a problem. We got a good tax base, lots of money in the reserves. And what would happen if that happened here? I mean, I would think there'd be outrage. Maybe there wouldn't be. Oh, well. Hey, there is good news, though. We're going to talk about that when we come back, about Whiteman Air Force Base and some really exciting high-tech stuff there as we continue to monitor the Wait, May Mailman's going to join us. She was in the Trump administration legal counsel there. And but she's with Independent Women's Forum. It's an interesting partnership that they are partnering with another group to do investigation into DEI and the Secret Service. Now remember the botched security there in Pennsylvania, right, in Butler County, Pennsylvania, where Donald Trump was almost assassinated in public view there in July. So and some are saying that they've, like so many institutions, are so defocused on the core mission that they're in behalf of wokeness and DEI and CRT and everything. Anyway, she'll be with us then. So, and by the way, it appears as though as we do more and more deep dive into that police cam video we played about the allegedly the woman eating the cat, apparently that's a mentally challenged woman who is from Canton, Ohio, according to some reports. But again, you don't know what's true anymore. But I think this is true. We can believe this.
This is the B-21 Raider. Isn't that cool? Well, it's a nuclear stealth bomber and considered the most technologically advanced aircraft in the world. Whiteman's will become its second home.
That is neat news. You look at this B-21 bomber. Holy cow. I mean, it looks like an Elon Musk production. It's just really futuristic.
Well, I think, Senator Eric Schmidt on Twitter last night called it like the top of the line best aircraft in the world at this point.
It is the most technologically advanced, according to all reports.
Yeah, it's sort of the B2 2.0.
Man, it is it's a mean machine, and it looks so sleek and just almost from the front. It almost looks like a manta ray or a stingray or something. Just really sinister looking. And you'd like to think that American ingenuity will continue to outpace whatever the Chinese, whatever the Russians, whoever. We continue to have this leading technology, and Whiteman will be the second home to that. So, of course, that also brings into question: does that mean like the Russian nuclear silos are pointing? A good portion of them are pointed at Whiteman, John?
They have been since I was a kid when Whiteman had 150 Minuteman missiles based around all the way over into west central Missouri. The closest one to where we are was Tipton. So Whiteman's pretty much about as high on the targeting list as you can get for the bad guys.
And
you can bet on it.
Which ways do most of the winds blow? From west to east?
Yep.
Hello.
There it is.
Yeah. I don't know. Get out your iodine to protect yourself. It is a scary time. You think about it. I'm glad we have these defensive capabilities that, well, in this case, the best offense is a defense, and it looks like this is one mean machine, and it's located. the stadium there. Wow. Well, joining us now to unpack what happened yesterday in the veto session, talk a little bit about what's going on in the state, is Representative Dave Griffith. He joins us by phone. How you doing, Dave? Thank you for being with us.
Oh, great. Good morning, you guys.
So yesterday, I guess a fairly uneventful from a policy standpoint session. Tell us about what happened at the veto session.
Well, really, I think in recent memory, it's the first time I think we've had that on 9/11 since the attack on our country. And there were some really poignant speeches that were given. One in particular given by Mike Hafner and by Michael O'Donnell. Mike Hafner, as you well may know, was a Navy pilot. He flew F-18s, and on 9/11 he was flying over New York, and he told his story.
Wow.
And you could have heard a pin drop in the chamber because everyone was standing, listening to his story, and to hear firsthand of what happened. And that's a day for us that are older. We'll always remember where we were and what happened on that day. And Michael O'Donnell, who's my suite mate, told a story that he was in New York. He was in Long Island, and he was heading to the World Trade Center to meet one of his friends. He's a bond trader, and meet one of his friends that worked in the towers, and his name was Carl. And he saw what was happening. He called Carl, and he got a really strange busy signal, and Carl lost his life that day. So there were a lot of tears that were shed on the floor of the House. But Randy, I can tell you that's one of the really special things about being in that chamber and being a representative is that we have so many friends that are friends for life, but we share so many moments like that a lot of the public just doesn't see. And I think if you were there, it's something you'll remember. So,
what's the impact, and if you notice any of the body language or the reaction among young people who really were either not born, maybe, or like we talked with producer Hannah yesterday. She was a little over 1 year old, has no specific recollection of that, but I imagine that even not having been a part of that, experiencing these things with people that, experienced it either firsthand or secondhand, like many of us, what kind of reaction do you hear from the young people?
I think they have a different viewpoint, I think, and look at it through a different lens than we do. But I think it's important for them to hear those kind of stories, to hear where we were, to hear from their parents, to hear from their grandparents as to what impact that had on us. And following 9/11, and you remember, our country came together like I'd never seen before. You saw American flags. You couldn't buy an American flag anywhere because they were all bought up and they were being flown. And we came together and united as a country. And we came together because our country was attacked. And 2,996 souls lost their lives that day, and 413 first responders who instead of running away from the fight, they ran into it and sacrificed their lives for it. So I think it's important for them to hear those kind of stories and to be able to, even though they don't have a personal relationship or memory of it, I think that as we tell it more, they're going to understand the importance of patriotism, the importance of what our military does for our country and protecting our country. And I think it's important for them to hear.
Dave, talk to us about the veto session and all. Well, there were 12 or so bills of the governor's vetoes that were out there. The House only took up one, and when the smoke cleared, no vetoes were overridden. Talk to us about what that one was about. Wasn't it about some health funding, basically?
Yeah, Deb Lavender is a real big proponent of health care, and she, in House Bill 2010, she brought up because that's dealing with nursing homes and the issues that we got with nursing homes and how they're underfunded, they're understaffed, and they are suffering from a lot of issues that as far as safety concerns that a lot of people have. And she wanted more money to be able to go to that, wanted to override the governor's veto on that. Totally understand it, but quite frankly, in an election year, that's just it's not going to happen. And in the past, we have overridden. I know when Governor Nixon was there, we had one veto session over a period of time, we vetoed 112 of his vetoes. So it's been done before, but I think that we all knew going in that it wasn't going to happen here. But I think if we're going to bring all this together, we need to try and find some way that we can do something productive. And I think during that we had some hearings on child care, which was very important. We had some hearings from DESE on some of the issues we've got with their funding. Carla Esslinger was there, and she testified. And for just being on the job since July 1st, she has really hit the ground running. And I have a lot of confidence in what she can do as the commissioner. But I think that if we're going to spend the money to bring all of us together, we have to try and find some ways that we can make it productive.
Representative Dave Griffith joins us. And Dave, I'd like to ask you sort of an ideological question, because I'd like to get a sense of something. We're talking about, you just talked about more money for nursing home, because clearly it's very difficult for nursing homes to maintain workforce. That's been one of the big problems. I know this very, very intimately. Having managed a hospital that was connected directly with a nursing home that struggled and ultimately closed during COVID because of workforce problems. We talk about the daycare problem. Everyone always is the sentiment, and I want to say this with all due respect, is the sentiment in the Capitol always, if there's a problem in a regulated industry, and sometimes a regulated and subsidized industry, is the first thought always more money? Or does anyone ever give thought to a proper sized regulatory environment for these agencies? Because I can tell you, having dealt with that, there are people that are getting out of healthcare. I can speak to this, who are getting out of healthcare because they're just tired with being overregulated. The inspectors swoop in, they shut the place down. I mean, it's egregious, frankly. And I'm just wondering, that alone could help access. It could reduce cost in these places, because there's a tremendous amount of money that goes to complying with, frankly, stupid pet trick regulations. Does anyone ever listen to those of us or is it just dismissing people who are whining? It's like, you guys just don't want to be regulated because you want to do unsafe practices. I'm saying that cynically.
No, you have a very good point, Randy, and I think that we do take that very seriously. But I think the one thing that a lot of people think is that we can take money and money can solve a problem, and money can't always solve a problem. So we need to find solutions to those. We have a lot because of amendments that go on the Constitution and change our Constitution to the point where we are mandated to fund and a lot of programs that are out there. A good example of that is the Medicaid expansion. When we said this on the floor of the House, when we expanded Medicaid, we're throwing more money into that. We're taking money away from another program, and when we do that, those programs are hurt. The pie is only so big, and so we can only slice it so many ways. Mm-hmm. But I think that trying to find concrete solutions to something, we're not just putting a Band-Aid on it, but finding concrete solutions that are going to, which really affect a lot of people's lives. If you go into a nursing home and you look at the staffing that's there, and we hear horror stories almost not every day, but at least every week of something that's going on with somebody's loved one that's in a nursing home that are not being cared for the way that they want them to. And I think we've seen that, especially in the veteran zones. We saw that. Yeah. It's definitely a problem that we need to have, but it's one that needs to have a very serious conversation with some serious solutions that go along with it.
Representative Dave Griffith is our guest, Republican from Jefferson City. He's live 717 here on News Radio 950 KWS 93.9 The Eagle. I'd also point out, Representative, yes, Medicaid expansion did pass statewide, but it failed in about 106 of Missouri's 114 counties. So these rural lawmakers, people said, well, they were voting against the people. Well, their constituents didn't want this. It passed in 8 counties, including Boone, and then the Supreme Court ordered it to proceed. Obviously, it was a 7-0 decision. I know you were at veto session and really a lot of farewell speeches. I'd like you to give us a quick summary of 2 lawmakers that are going to be leaving that I know very well. You know them well. One a Democrat, one a Republican. You mentioned Deb Lavender. If people don't know Deb Lavender from Kirkwood, she is passionate about these nursing homes, passionate about children. Your thoughts on her and her knowledge of the budget. And Travis Smith, a Republican from Dora, He's the one, yes, he's leaving, got beaten a primary for the Senate. He's the one representative that brought it to the forefront, the hazing going on with Danny Santulli in Columbia. He talked about it when people were uncomfortable hearing about it. Your thoughts, sir?
Well, you take Deb Lavender. You're right. She is very passionate about what she does, and for a lot of people, they kind of perceive her as being a pain, but she's not. I mean, she's a very smart lady. Mm-hmm. She has a passion for what she does, and she's very vocal. Mm-hmm. And I appreciate that about my colleagues on both sides of the aisle, where they have a forum where they're able to talk and to make a difference. I think that Deb, being on budget, is able to have her voice heard there. She's going to be missed. Travis Smith, a very good friend of mine, and I saw him. He came over to my desk yesterday on the floor, and I gave him a big hug, and I told him, I said, I'm really going to miss you here and miss your voice and what you do. And so a lot of what we have, a lot of our colleagues that are leaving, the voice that they have and what they do on the chamber floor, for a lot of voters around the state of Missouri, they don't totally understand the impact that one person can have on a body of 163. But those are two that are going to be missed. We did have some farewell speeches yesterday. Kevin Windham gave a very impassioned speech. Mm-hmm. He actually quoted Snoop Dogg in his speech, so I mean, that was pretty unusual. But I went over and talked with him, and he was very instrumental in helping us get a lot of funding for Lincoln University, and I thank him for that. And his voice is heard as well. But sometimes we see a lot of our colleagues as being controversial and saying things that we don't want to hear. Mm-hmm. But we need that. We need to be able to speak our mind and be able to say things openly that many people are thinking, but you have the courage to do that, and those few people certainly did.
Ah, great words. Yeah,
pretty
great
powerful.
insight. And
Kevin Windham definitely helped him get funding for Lincoln. He did. That was huge. Democratic representative from Hillsdale.
Well, Dave, we thank you for that recap, and especially for your reporting on the very solemn and, well, sounds like incredibly moving 9/11 speeches from firsthand reports there. At the veto session yesterday, well, a little bit of respite, and then next thing you know, it's the Republican caucus in November, and then we're back into business, in January. And I guess hearings go on, right, throughout the out-of-session time.
Yeah, they do, and I think a lot of people don't understand. I think they think that we're in session from January to May, and then after that, everything's done. If you go to the Capitol, there's a lot of activity that goes on there, a lot of interim committees that are meeting, a lot of task forces that the governor has set up that meet and are doing the people's business. And I think if you've never gone to a hearing or they're live streams, you can watch them over the internet. But if you haven't gone, you can actually see the work that's done outside of the session that really are the building blocks for what goes on during session. And I think that is something that I know I'm proud of. I serve on a couple of committees that have been meeting throughout the summer, and we meet all the way up until
I testified at one of those hearings in behalf of, I think it was 340B once several years ago, and I know I'm thinking sometimes maybe when I quit this gig, I might just set up an Imodium concession outside the Capitol for those who are going to testify. A room full of people, and all the legislators are sitting up there and like, wow, man, you got to tighten your sphincter. You guys are impressive. It's sort of. Hey, thanks for being with us, Dave. Appreciate it. All right, take care. No, I mean it is. You get up there and you realize, man, you got a bunch of people making decisions that affect people.
to hear it. McDonald's announced that their latest scheme with their Happy Meals, they will be teaming up with the folks at the most hideous shoe brand ever, Crocs.
Oh, Stephanie's going to get her little Hannah voodoo doll out and start putting needles into it.
Well, see, okay, Stephanie...
She loves her Crocs.
She loves her Crocs. I love my Hey Dudes. She thinks Hey Dudes are really ugly, just like the little slip-on shoes.
Okay.
So, I mean, I get it, right? Yeah. But I don't know how a Hey Dude compares to a piece of rubbery foam that looks like Swiss cheese. But that's beside the point.
Ooh. Croc hunting, are we?
I guess. So coming up here in about a week, Happy Meals will come with a little keychain that includes one of 8 different mini Crocs. And it comes with a set of stickers to decorate your Crocs. So.
Oh, yeah.
Got to have the bling on the Crocs, right?
I guess so.
So you can get that with your Happy Meal now?
Yeah, well, here in about a week, it looks like. Last year, they dropped a collaboration Crocs did with McDonald's where they turned some of the famous McDonald's characters into actual Crocs.
Oh.
So not just keychains, but wearable shoes. I think
they bedazzled them to boot, didn't they?
Well, I think they're called the gibbets that you can buy to stick in the holes. I think they made little chicken nuggets and things like that that you could stick into your hideous purple Grimace
They're
Crocs.
like a Ronald McDonald little piece of jewelry too, maybe.
Randy knows what industry loves Crocs, don't they? The healthcare folks.
Oh yeah, we love them. Yep, they're great.
Really?
They're great. got so inextricably linked to DEI and so immersed, inextricably linked to DEI, and how it can really distract at a minimum from the core mission of very crucial, critical, functions of various agencies. In this case, the protection of officials, namely the president, namely the ex-president who almost got killed in living color, right in front of our eyes, July 13th. And it's an important topic because, no matter how you think about it, I think we all expect for officials to be protected from the crazies that are out there. And it seems like there's an increasingly radical group of crazies and an increasing number of them, and increasing willingness for people to be crazy on all sides of the fence. Anyway, so we'll talk with her at 8:08. Now, look, this is a sensitive issue, and I know some of you don't like to hear about it, but I need to set the record straight. Here's what Donald Trump said the other day during the debate about abortion.
Voters, because the plan is, as you know, the vote is, they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, is doing an excellent job, but the governor before, he said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby.
Now, he was fact-checked on that, and it was either Muir or Lindsay Davis, who, by the way, is a sorority sister. She's in the same, I think it's called AKA sorority with Kamala Harris.
Alpha is one of the big black sororities.
Isn't that interesting? So, I don't know. I think that may be a little bit of a unimportant relationship. I doubt they were in the same sorority house, but still. At any rate,
I think their ages are very different.
And she was called out to say, and he was called out saying, well, no, there's no state that allows it. And to be fair, I think what Governor Northrup was talking about was there are these cases where babies have tremendously life incompatible, or at least extended life incompatible anomalies. They are born. Sometimes they don't have the heart, chambers aren't connected, and lungs aren't developed. There are all kinds of problems. They're uniformly fatal anomalies, and there are decisions that have to be made. And these are such fringe, rare events that I think got over-publicized by the right. But all that said, there are at least 7, 8, I think there are 9 states that do have essentially unrestricted abortion until the time of birth through the 3rd trimester. The best numbers I can come up with is it's between probably 1% and 2% of the time these occur. And again, there are people that would argue that if you have a child that doesn't have kidneys, that's incompatible with life. There are people who argue, look, the baby is not going to make it. We have the baby born rather than have the mom go through mental anguish. I'm not going to argue those arguments. They're rare. These are moral/ethical arguments that I think are just very confusing. But to say, for the left to say that there aren't places that are doing abortions in the 3rd trimester, and yes, some are done for convenience. Women who, find out that they're pregnant late in the pregnancy, some live in denial. That's a real medical condition. Pregnancy denied or not even realized. Somehow some mental wiring occurs. But here's a legit. I looked up this website and at the Care Center up in Massachusetts. Take a listen.
I'm calling the Care Clinic in Bethesda, Maryland.
Thank you for calling Care. How can I help you?
I am looking to have an abortion.
How far along are you?
I'm 34 right now. I am in a pretty
weeks.
desperate situation. My boyfriend is kind of out of the picture now, so I don't really have any support.
An abortion at any stage is actually much safer than delivering a term pregnancy. It's a 4 to 5 day procedure. We do some basic lab work on you and start to dilate your cervix. After that, we do what we call the fetal injection. A needle is inserted through the abdomen and into the fetal heart where lidocaine is injected, and that will completely numb the fetus so there's no pain. And then after that, we inject a medication called digoxin and another medication called KCL into the fetal heart, which will slow and then stop the fetal heartbeat. And then on that 4th day, depending on how your cervix is dilated, we'll break your water, and then we'll give you a medication called misoprostol. Misoprostol will sort of induce contraction and increase the dilation.
That's real. This is a Students for Life. By the way, they're having a rally on Monday, I believe, and we're going to have a representative on, we hope, tomorrow. That is a Students for Life masquerading as a woman requesting a 34-week abortion. This website, I went to it at the Care Clinic. How sickeningly deceptive is that? The Care Clinic. Are they caring for the baby that they put a needle through the mom's belly and uterus into the heart and inject it with a lethal cocktail of medicines? So for those of you who want to believe that it's not going on, those of you on the left who says that it doesn't go on, that it's not, if Amendment 3 passes, that won't be the reality, you're kidding yourself. There's a Representative Tran who in 2019 in Virginia tried to remove the restrictions from, she wanted to have a law, she proposed a law, it didn't pass, but currently, as best I can tell from my research in the legislative annals of Virginia, you can have an abortion up through the third trimester, up until delivery. But it takes a certification of 3 doctors to say that your health is threatened. It's only allowed when the mother's health is threatened. That's the most common reason why these are done. If mom has a bad cardiac condition, maybe severe pulmonary conditions, and tries to carry the baby, and then she deteriorates, and okay, you got to deliver the baby, but you don't need to do an abortion. You deliver it early. But it's legal in these kind of instances to do this. In Virginia, Representative Tran in 2019 wanted to remove the irremediable and serious language from the legislation, from the statute, and reduce it to 1 doctor making the decision that indeed the woman's health was in grave danger. So I don't care how you stand on this. Well, I do. I sort of do. But I do resent the fact that the moderators, the so-called moderators, what they are state BC propagandists under the guise of moderators the other night, Muir and Davis, trying to fact check, and others trying to fact check and say it doesn't go on and it can't go on and it's not going to be legal in every state as these dominoes fall across the states, as the big anti-life, pro-abortion movement gets momentum. It's real. It's done. Yes, it's rare. But the way our culture is going, who's to say? I think it'll become more common. I just thought you ought to know. Want to talk a little pumpkin spice, Hannah?
Always.
Lighten it up a little bit? It's very troubling to me. Okay, so I saw that you had a meat stick in there the other day. Has anyone come up with a pumpkin spice meat stick yet?
Bet they have.
I hope not.
Remember when you had the Dr. Pepper meat stick?
I've tried to block that out
awful.
of my memory. That one was so bad. You know when you try something truly disgusting and you want other people to share in how disgusting it is?
Yeah.
I ended up cutting that one up into small pieces, and I made a bunch of our coworkers try it. A couple actually liked it, but not very many.
Well,
so like those fire hot cheese balls that were in the break room a while back.
That Randy couldn't stop eating even though he didn't like them.
Oh, they were terrible. Something about cheese balls. My dad just loved cheese balls, so anytime I see one, no matter what, I guess I just get nostalgic and I start eating them.
Hey, how did you like the candy that was in the break room last week?
Oh my God! I took one bite and I had to go. I went into the bathroom and
chocolate covered grasshoppers or something.
No, these were well, wait a minute. I'm talking about the tingy.
They were. Wait, what were you gonna say?
What do you call them? Tingy or what was it called? They were the real ultra hot gummy stuff. What were those?
Tahine.
Oh, tahini. I don't. It's awful. Awful.
They were watermelon gummy rings.
There was no watermelon. I'm sorry, Hannah. That was hot.
That were coated in tahine. The tahine is what's spicy.
What is tahine?
It's like a seasoning, basically.
Haitians eat it?
Like a North African spice.
Okay.
Or something.
I think it's maybe like a Hispanic thing.
I'm sorry.
A lot of times they'll put it on fruit, and you get the sweet and spicy.
That bag of those tahine-coated watermelon gummies sat there for at least a couple of days.
Yeah, and that is a sign in this office that something isn't very good if it sits in the break room longer than a couple hours, because it's gone pretty quick if it's good.
Now, should I bring you, speaking of flavors, I asked you about pumpkin spice. You're willing to try different flavors, right?
Sometimes.
Ben and Jerry's have unveiled Kamala Harris Coconut Jubilee ice cream flavor.
See, I don't like
Ooh,
coconut.
Boy, I'd say would that name be awfully hard to swallow.
I don't know. I don't know. I wouldn't need a Kamala Harris named ice cream if it was. My favorite is I love strawberry ice cream with the real strawberries in it. Love it. My favorite is just unadulterated eggs, cream, sugar, nothing else basically. Ice cream, just vanilla. That's it.
I mean, are we surprised though that Ben and Jerry's released a Kamala Harris flavor? Because they've kind of notoriously been a woke company, right?
Yeah, I just no way. So they've got limited edition pints of Kamala's Coconut Jubilee, coconut flavored ice cream, labored with caramel, or is it caramel or caramel? What do you say, caramel? And topped with red, white, and blue star sprinkles. They actually ought to have the Soviet flag over her ice cream.
She couldn't even wear a red, white, and blue American flag pin in the debate. Give me a break.
I didn't pick that detail up, but you did.
Oh,
that was good.
Right away, I'm like, the light was hitting it weird, and I'm going, what is that? And it's almost kind of hard to tell it was supposed to be a flag pin.
Did you see the speculation that the earrings she had were some kind of a hearing device? That was debunked.
Well, yeah.
But
people on the internet.
Well, we were talking, about these things you see about Haitians eating cats and dogs and geese. Then you see about this. No one knows what to believe anymore.
Well, the problem is not enough people have that healthy speculation gene like we have. And they just see something once and run with it.
Are we ever going to return to a time when there is an agreed upon set of relatively valid sources that the vast majority of Americans can count on, other than the Zimmer News Network news team? You know what I mean? Are we ever going to get there again? FDA, CDC, no one believes anything anymore. But yeah, and we fight that in medicine because now a lot of people don't want to take any medicines because they don't trust anything. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I'm worried about you. And you can take this medicine that's been around for 70 years that'll help you.
You can thank the pandemic.
Yeah. Oh,
for
boy.
that mindset.
Yeah. Well, I, as a scientist and a doc, there's some information coming out that up to 30, maybe more % of the basic science literature is inaccurate, or it's been cooked because people are, they need to, in order to get their grant, in order to get their tenure, in order to keep advancing in the academic sphere, they need to sort of, bend the data, maybe throw out a few outliers. I'm just saying that's not my observation. Those are people that are looking now at medical research very closely, that are involved in medical research. Well, look, you're looking at what's in the world of the weird and odd and unusual, John. What is weird, odd, and unusual in John Marsh's world?
Hey, astronaut Elon, what's for lunch up there?
Oh, wow, that'll be fun.
food. Back in the early 60s, John Glenn and the Mercury guys got to eat bite-sized cubes of compressed and dehydrated peanut butter, rehydrated by the saliva in the astronauts' mouths. Guys in Gemini had shrimp cocktail, turkey bites, cream of chicken soup, and butterscotch pudding that was freeze-dried. The Apollo folks took it another level: bacon squares, beef sandwiches, chocolate pudding, and even fruit cake. When they put Discovery, the space shuttle, in the air, Emerald came along and gave them mashed potatoes, jambalaya, and bread pudding. Now, recently on the SpaceX Crew Dragon ship, one of the astronauts was French. Thomas Pesquet got beef bourguignon, einhorn risotto, and crepe Suzette.
Ooh.
And the Russians, you might think, are bringing all the vodka with them, where we have eggs and bacon on the Americans on the International Space Station. The Russians have breakfast of pickled or spiced perch, sturgeon, borscht, or goulash.
That's actually that's some pretty healthy fare.
That's fermented fish, I guess.
Borscht is beet soup, so that'll help their arteries, you know.
There
It's
you
good
go.
for borscht is good. I like borscht. You like borscht?
You remember when we were kids, the big thing we absolutely had to have was Tang, the powdered orange drink mix, because that's what the astronauts
John, you are reading my mind. I am on the web now looking up whatever happened to Tang.
I think it's still around.
I think it is. And apparently globally, it's very, very popular still. It's nothing more than sugared water, really.
A little orange powder in
Little
it.
orange powder.
Kool-Aid,
Yeah,
basically.
right. And now, if it different, if you read about in 2013, former NASA astronaut Buzz Aldrin said, "Tang sucks." That was in his autobiography. They all dutifully sampled the orange drink and instead chose a grapefruit orange mixture as our citrus drink. But it comes in a lot of different flavors. But it has 29 grams of sugar. That's about 95% of the product's dry weight.
But we had to have it because that's what the astronauts drank.
Yeah. You know, I think of this freeze-dried stuff. Is that similar, do you think, to what some of us maybe just have, maybe could be in our basement with our survivalist stash and on all this freeze-dried food? It probably is similar, right?
Probably real similar, like the backpacking meals that sort of started the whole freeze-dried thing.
I was talking with
after
Helene.
NASA.
I'm trying to work on Helene to get her to just one night. I just want to open up a couple packages of that and just try it out. I've never tried it out, but I've got a few cases of this survival food, and I started accumulating that with the Obama administration. I think it's still good though.
Yeah, check your expiration date on it, and they say a lot of the preppers, they eat the stuff that's starting to getting to the end of its usefulness.
Well, and I've got
recycle it in and out.
I got that heirloom seed bank. I think those may go bad, but I don't know. They're supposed to be vacuum packed, but I think seeds go bad no matter what after a while. Maybe next
Didn't law enforcement officials arrest the shooter before the speech? There is definitely more to this story, and we need to uncover the truth.
Well, that is former First Lady Melania Trump raising questions and channeling a lot of thoughts of Americans as we came close to witnessing the assassination of a president or a former president.
If it's not an AI video of her.
That's producer Hannah raising skepticism about Melania Trump. We don't know. But
that I'm just saying, like, we don't know.
You don't know. But
there's been a lot of speculation online about its authenticity.
The questions continue to be raised. And to help us unpack some of what's going on about Secret Service, its competency, and especially questions that have been raised about involvement of women in the the front lines on the battlefield of protection, is May Mailman, a friend of ours from Independent Women's Center. She's the really the driver of the Independent Women's Law Center. They're being the director of that very, very great division of IWF, and a friend of the show. How you doing, May? Thanks for being with us.
Hey, Randy. It's been a while. Thanks for having me on.
As a former legal advisor to President Trump, I know that, when you look at and witnessed what you did on TV that night on July 13th, that had to really be a chilling event to watch that, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think, people have almost forgotten just that it happened or how we felt when it happened, but it was surreal. I mean, it was emotional, and you just thought about our country in a different way, how fragile the whole thing is. So we can't forget about this, and we can't let it happen again.
And we saw, sadly, I mean, I think women in the Secret Service as a tactical part of the service really took a little bit of hit. There were all kinds of repeating, looping videos of the women around that vehicle as they got them into the vehicle. So, sort of, looking around. And I think they were being situationally aware. But, I mean, women took a hit, I think, in popular press, being a part of the Secret Service. And I think that's what I wanted to talk with you about. There's a new release about a partnership between Independent Women's Center and the Mountain States Legal Foundation. Tell us about that and sort of the impact of the latest this latest incident and the whole nexus between DEI and quotas and what it means.
Yeah, so as we can all recall, in the aftermath of the shooting, there were a lot of images of a huge number of women protecting President Trump. And it only was girl power for about 3 seconds until it was immediately focusing on what appeared to be failures from these women. They were nervous. They couldn't holster their gun. They didn't have the right body size to shield President Trump's head, which we did get a very iconic picture, but it was very unsafe. They would not have been able to lift President Trump if he needed to. There were all these questions raised about women in the Secret Service. Now, that is incredibly harmful to women, as women should be able to compete and be treated as competent and equal in male-dominated fields. But the reason why there were so many questions about women that day is because the Secret Service decided to cloak itself in DEI hiring and promotion. So Kim Cheadle, who's no longer the director, but these are still the policies that are there, and these are policies that she implemented, said that she wanted an arbitrary number of 30% women by 2030. And she was so proud that finally the last year that they put more women than men through their program to become agents. Quotas are illegal. You cannot discriminate against people on the basis of their sex. But two, if you just are hiring based on quotas, this seems incredibly unsafe for the president, and then incredibly discriminatory towards women. It puts a badge of inferiority on women once they are in the service because it appears as though they are quota hires. So what Independent Women's Forum is doing is we know that this illegal discrimination is happening. It's blatant. They say it. They're proud of it. We are doing a deeper investigation, and what we are doing is we're looking for a person who has been negatively affected by this quota system in the Secret Service, and we are going to bring a lawsuit.
And what will the lawsuit aim for, and what remedy will it seek?
Yeah, so, I mean, I think it's just seeking what the law already protects. There, for example, Title VII says that employers cannot discriminate on the basis of a bunch of things, but sex is one of them. And so all we want is for government agencies, but particularly high-stakes government agencies like the Secret Service, to give all candidates a fair shot. This does not mean that that women shouldn't be looked at favorably if there are skills that woman has, or if having a woman on the team is going to be somehow beneficial to balance things out. That's perfectly fine. The problem is saying I want 30% women and not considering men if they if they've reached their 70% of men. That's the problem.
Yeah. It's interesting. This reminds me of the conversation going back to George W. Bush. Remember when he talked about the soft bigotry of low expectations when it came to, admissions criteria in schools and other, affirmative action type programs? It doesn't serve the minority or the, underrepresented population, name whatever it is. In this case, we're talking today about women. It could be blacks. It could be, disabled people, whatever. It doesn't serve them well if you mandate that, because the person sitting across the table from them when it comes to hiring or admissions can come to assume that the reason they're there is not necessarily because of merit, right? And I think that's the sad, ironic bias that really ends up hurting these folks, right? And I understand exactly what this is about. Similar kind of a story, right?
Exactly. So, and I think there's another piece too, which is we don't doubt that it would be good to have 30% women in the Secret Service. Like maybe that would be nice. But what Secret Service needs to be doing is, if you actually do want to boost the number of women, take a look at your policies. Are there things that you're doing that make it really difficult for women to be part of it, whether that's opportunities to pump at work, like things like this? If companies spent more time thinking about, can women work here, and less time saying, I'm going to just promote women, that would actually be much more beneficial to women, because I think there's been this idea that there's a trickle-down effect, right? That if you get 30% women, then there'll be role models, and then, we'll have more women. No, those women will not be role models if they are seen as incompetent. The way that you can have that trickle-down effect is to be a place that is friendly to women. Now, it might be difficult for the Secret Service to be a place that is friendly for breastfeeding women, or if you've got to lift a big man that's your detail, that might be difficult. But that's not discriminatory. That's not anti-woman. That's the way that it is. So, having government agencies be realistic about what they can do to improve is the goal, rather than setting arbitrary numbers and creating a tokenism for women that harms women all the way down. So that's what we're asking for. And this is something that Americans, I think, like and want. And yet we continue to see, for example, Independent Women's Law Center challenged California's law that set an arbitrary number of women that corporations have to have on their board. So now you've got token women on boards. Now nobody thinks that the women can, be leaders. We see it throughout society, but we really should not see it in our government.
That's May Mailman. She's a leader at Independent Women's Law Center, namely the director of that division of Independent Women's Center, and a former legal advisor to President Trump on Wake Up Mid-Missouri this morning.
May, talk to us about the angle of, when we talk about the female Secret Service agent who was there at the Trump shooting, and she was very short in stature compared to the rest of the agents on the protection detail and all. There are people who are a good fit to be in the, in the rough and tough end of that, and there are people who aren't, whether they're male or female.
Exactly. So Secret Service has two different qualifications to be an agent, depending on whether you're a male or a female. And, maybe that's okay in some instances, but in some instances, it endangers the person you're trying to protect. It makes you incapable of doing your job. If the requirement is to be 6 feet, and that's not a sexist requirement, that's just you need to be taller than the person that you're protecting, then those are the types of things that you really should not be lowering for women. Now, is that those I think are just common sense things. We are really trying to target sex discriminatory quotas where just because you are a man, you were born with XY chromosomes, therefore we're not going to consider you to the extent we're considering a man. But certainly the two different standards for men versus women are part and parcel of that challenge.
Doesn't make sense. Hey, by the way, May, I wanted to relay a howdy doody, a hello from a former ally in the suit against the vaccine mandates. Jesus Osete says hi. He couldn't come on. I wanted him to come on, but he's got other duties right now. But he said that you and he worked together he fought the CMS mandates, and I was part of that, process in representing a small hospital, rural hospital. He fought CMS, and I guess you fought against employer mandates as well, right?
Exactly. So this is part of the family of attorneys general, which I think is something that is a really great aspect of being part of the conservative legal world, is that I can be in the Attorney General's office in Ohio, which I was, and there are all these great staff in Attorney General's offices in Missouri, for example. And because these rules that we're challenging are nationwide, the vaccine mandate is nationwide, we're able to collaborate with states across the nation in getting together plaintiffs and getting together facts, and we get to know people. And it's a great part of working for the AG's office.
Yeah, well, he was just really glad to hear you were on. He wanted to say hi. He's running for a circuit judge here in Boone County in Missouri, so a political race, and I proudly have his yard sign in front of my yard. So, hey, May, thanks for being with us. We'll be following this, and folks want to learn more about this, and it's really about meritocracy. I think us conservatives recognize that as a common sense thing about life, but it's gone off the rails with the DEI craziness. And IWF, and under the leadership of May Mailman at the Women's Law Center, there is at the tip of this spear. IWF.org, that's the website. I have it bookmarked. Hope everyone else will. May, great to talk with you. Hope to talk soon.
Great. Thanks for having me, Randy.
All right. There she is. And, that's right, man. It's just not fair. Yesterday, volatile session. However, things inched up a little bit, about a percent change actually yesterday in the Nasdaq and the S&P. The S&P, the Nasdaq was up 2%. Dow Jones just up a fraction. Today's futures are pretty much unchanged for the most part. Oil continues to really be now below $70 a barrel, $68 a barrel. Remember, just a couple weeks ago, it was in the mid 70s, and things really took a turn down. That usually reflects some nervousness about the future of economies around the globe. And a lot of what's driving the conversation today is, what will the Fed do? Will they make a 0.25% rate cut around the globe? The Europeans have done that in response to market pressures. The 10-year Treasury yield has been little changed. It rose a little bit Wednesday, but futures are unchanged on that. Oil prices, like I said, still hanging in there a little bit lower, but they raised a little bit because of landfall in Louisiana of that Category 2 hurricane yesterday. And I think in other interesting news, John, Hannah, this Starliner may be yet another nail. The way it returned to Earth and had some thruster problems separating from the space station, there were more and more problems even as it made it safely. It was a good targeted landing. But there are people talking about Boeing maybe divesting their, this division because of all the problems they had. Boeing just continues to suffer one after another hit, John, and I don't know.
Threatening 30,000 Boeing workers go out on strike. A union vote, I think, is today.
So if I'm a Boeing worker and the company, after doors are falling off in midair of airliners and the Starliner can't even get, they get the astronauts up there and they can't get them back. They're stranded, lost in space, not lost, but stranded in space. I don't know. Would I be challenging the company at a time like this when the company is challenged in terms of its brand?
Yeah, and Airbus always is, they're always right there, being the kind of distant second provider of airliners and all, but Boeing's kind of had the monopoly on it and have had a lot of bad press.
If you're the owners, are you sitting there going, what could possibly else go wrong?
No, you're right. I mean, you got to be thinking about it. And if I'm a worker there, I would think I may be wanting to batten the hatches and circle the wagons along with management, and let's questioned that I may have played an AI-generated Melania Trump clip. Can you imagine? I mean,
can't imagine.
Where is the trust? Where is the faith in journalism, Hannah, that I will do a good job?
The trust wasn't not in you. It was not in the internet.
Well, I may have to buy a new book that's out by Melania. We did some research.
Is it really by Melania, though?
Well, that's possible.
No, go ahead and call John a conspiracy theorist and a skepticist. Go ahead.
See, we live in this world where you don't know. Are we all living in a matrix? Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just not any of this is real, right? Could it be?
That's kind of how Donald Trump ducked the bullet, sort of right out of the matrix, wasn't it?
Yeah, boy, you're saying.
The challenges and rewards of motherhood, from sleepless nights to joyful milestones, bring immense fulfillment which only a mother understands. The lessons I have learned from this experience are profound, and they have shaped me in ways I could never have imagined.
Well, she's out with a new book, simply called Melania. It's her memoir. And, she's on the Twitter. She's only got 2.7 million followers. I wonder how many Michelle Obama has, comparing first ladies. I'll bet she has a lot more.
Well, yes, I'm sure she probably does.
Why?
But Michelle Obama kind of made herself a figure, whereas Melania, I feel like, has been much more in the background.
Yeah, for sure.
She's really a regal first lady in all the best ways. I mean, she's just a very statuesque person in the way she conducts herself, the way she holds herself, and the way she is very active with her. She was very active in children's matters, during the Trump's presidency. I'd like to see her back in the White House. I think she adds a touch of class to the White House, but that's my opinion.
Well, and didn't she sort of famously, say she was going to take a step back because she wanted to raise Barron Trump sort of out of the spotlight?
Yeah.
Is that what?
That's why I played that clip, because she celebrates motherhood, and she's a very successful woman professionally as well. So,
and Barron's off to college.
Yeah, he is. Boy, he's a tall dude too, isn't he?
He's a big one.
And one thing for sure that President Obama's children have said this, President Bush's children have said this, Hillary Clinton's and Bill Clinton's daughter Chelsea has said this too. Children are off limits. And not anything we're doing. I'm talking about the public. All of them defend, because there were people that attacked Barron Trump. Just I don't know why, terribly. And Chelsea Clinton was one of the first people to come out and she ripped the people that did that.
Is there a general?
She caught it pretty tough herself over
she
her
did.
looks.
Is there a general consensus at which time they become open season? Is it 18, 20, 21?
Certainly, when we're talking
Donald
about
Trump, Eric Trump, I mean, they're fair game.
And they would be fair game. Hunter Biden is an adult, obviously charged with, crimes and stuff. Yes. I'm talking about children. I mean, I think, Chelsea Clinton, as I recall, I'm going from memory, in 1992, I was in college. She looked like a baby. I guess she was maybe 11 or 12. I mean, she was young. In 1992, and people made fun of her looks. Barron was maybe a grade school, high school. I don't know how. It's hard for me. They all look young to me, but kids are off limits.
Yeah,
they really are. I'm talking about social media, not anything we're doing.
Well, an excerpt out of Melania's book, Mothers are the Cornerstone of a Flourishing Society. I take great pride in embracing this responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And although nothing makes me prouder than the relationship I've built with my son, only a mother knows that some of our efforts remain unnoticed. Motherhood exists as the bedrock of the American family, and they wear many hats: emotional support, inspirational growth, health, love, humor, education, and more. We strive to provide our children with the building blocks to create meaningful relationships, plus the tools to eventually grow into mindful adults who thrive. Mm-hmm. I'm going to buy this book. I want to read this book. So, speaking of great people that do things in their community, I mean, we've got great John's involved in Jefferson City. Brian, I know you're so involved in, and everyone on this program is involved in both communities. You're involved in so many things as well. You spoke at a Moberly event yesterday.
It was an honor, Randy. Last night, it was the September 11th event, the Patriot Day event in honor of first responders. in Moberly. It was a municipal auditorium. I would say that, looking probably about 150, maybe 175 people in the audience. There were also people in the kitchen, so I didn't see everybody. But in that range, a lot of them firefighters, a lot of them volunteer firefighters, men and women. A lot of them are, I know Hannah's husband, with all the work he does at the fire. There are people that just are very dedicated. The ambulance folks, the EMTs, there were doctors there. The head of the Moberly Regional Medical Center was there. A lot of highway patrol, a lot of Moberly police, Randolph County sheriffs, and it was an honor to speak to them. I talked more about in my talk to them about just the first responders that over the years. Obviously, I referenced 9/11. But I referenced some of the things we've seen here in mid-Missouri, and it really resonated. I saw a lot of people nodding up and down their heads, and I told two quick stories. I told several, but I'll share just two quick ones, Randy. In Randolph County, we had two jailers, Jason Acton and Leon Egley, and I know everybody in Moberly, Randolph County knows those names, but for those of you who don't, they were the Randolph County jailers who were working on June 2000. They were brutally murdered by a man named Michael Tysius that came in with a woman trying to break a guy out of jail. They could have just broke the guy out of jail. They didn't have to kill them. He executed them. And they died horrible deaths. And because of those deaths, they basically built a new jail. So there were a lot of people remember them. And I also talked about the Moberly tornado in 1995 and what happened there, and that was the 4th of July, by the way. But I tied it in with this, and it really resonated with the audience, Randy, the importance of live local radio. Moberly Radio, KRES, they're not even, everybody up there in Moberly apparently listens to 93.9 The Eagle right now, or KWAS, primarily The Eagle, because their radio station is gone. But they talked about the fact that the radio station saved lives. I heard that over and over, and the first responders calling in, that was a big deal. And I also pointed out that Michael Tysius, after he had killed those two, everybody all over the state was looking for him. It was dark. Bill Peterson, a reporter at Crest Radio in Moberly, went on the air. This is absolutely factual, folks. Went on the air, gave the suspect description, middle of the night, maybe 2 o'clock in the morning. Car description, license plate. A trucker on Highway 36 in Brookfield was behind this vehicle of two murder suspects. Huge manhunt. They were looking for him down here in Columbia. They were near Brookfield. That man heard the radio station, called the radio station, but called 911, and they caught these two murder suspects.
Yeah.
Again, the importance of live local radio, working in conjunction with law enforcement and first responders. Very important. But it was a real honor. Thank you, Catherine Miller, for the invitation, and she did a great job. And I also want to give a shout out to Patricia Hopper, Walnut Acres in Huntsville. Randy, we got to go up there. They catered the food.
Oh, really?
Walnut Acres in Huntsville. We got to go up there for lunch. The food was incredible.
Oh, great!
And they sent me home with a bunch of pulled pork as well.
Oh, all right. Well, yeah, we'll let you do that. No, it's right, and I hope
it was a great time.
And I hope that when you in the Wake Up Mid-Missouri family need a service that is offered by one of the sponsors or a product, that you think about that, because
Yes.
I mean, live and local radio is a threatened entity. I mean, it's just the way things are going in the industry and in the broadcast communications world. It takes a lot of resource to produce continual live program, and we don't have all continual 24/7 live, but an awful lot more than most places.
Well, we do, no doubt about it, and it's huge. And I'm here, night and day sometimes working on stories, but all of us are.
And when we're not on the air, we're prepping and working and
going out in the field and everything. But John Zimmer, our boss, and John's worked for him for many, many years. John Zimmer was on our show not too long ago talking about what happened in Moberly. But that was one of the biggest things I heard, in addition to 9/11, how just disappointed they are, especially with weather coverage. So they're I'm not going to say they're crushed, but they're just very deflated at what happened. So we appreciate all those new listeners. But you are right. Live local radio is important. And it's just, otherwise we could just sit around and turn polka music on, I guess, and nobody would be informed at all, or some other
like
format.
So many of the stations that you reference have just gone to taking generic satellite programming, and this company's not about that.
No, not at all. And actually, I was
and about preserving AM radio. AM is. There are going to be circumstances potentially where if it's not for an AM radio, you may not have any communications. I mean, it's
that's right.
That's a critical part of the communications infrastructure.
And to your point on that, we had a very prominent listener that was listening that didn't want me to use his name, so I'll just say very prominent listener, very big listener in the broadcasting industry. He happened to be listening to News Radio 950 KWS the other morning when John and I were doing extensive reports about that crash on 54 and the 4-mile backup. And that person sent me a picture, didn't want me to use his name, but I did use it on the website. And he was just thrilled at the coverage of what was going on. And we appreciate that. But again, those people stuck in traffic, they weren't thinking about, honestly, they weren't thinking about Harris or Trump or the debates. That they're thinking about when they're stuck in a 4-mile backup.
Yeah.
How long is it going to take me to get to work? They're not thinking about abortion. They're not thinking about gun control. Then, not to say they won't be later, but that is what they're thinking about, and that is so important to be on top of that. And the backup was even worse than we originally thought. I got that confirmed later with Eric Wilde. I was told originally a 1-mile backup. The problem is the Highway Patrol didn't have great information because it was JCPD's jurisdiction. So I talked to Eric Wilde, and then I talked to Mr. Payne. There was a 4-mile backup on that crash. 4 miles.
They were talking all the way on 54 to the other side of Holt Summit.
The other side of Holt Summit, Randy. I don't know if you've been there. You're talking about.
Yeah, I have.
That's unbelievable. That kind of a backup. And then everybody trying to merge from Columbia was stuck because you can only go one at a time, and there were 4 or 5 vehicles, and then there was another crash there. So it was bad. It was nobody got killed, seriously injured, but it was a mess, and people depend on that.
I wonder if there's any statistics. I bet someone in DOT has statistics, but of the crashes that occur in and around the tri-level and that whole complex interchange system, I have to tell you, I mean, I don't go to Jefferson City every day, but I go there enough that I would think I would be pretty, man, I struggle with it all the time. And whether you're going on 50 East or you're going or West or you're going on 54, it's tough. And you have to make some quick decisions. The other day, Helene and I had to go down there. We went down there and met someone for lunch, and I was like, man, I'd love to know of the people that have problems down there, how many of them are infrequent flyers? I'll bet it's the vast majority of people.
You can bet on it. Yeah, and even if you're a frequent flyer, at the best,
okay, well, that makes me feel better.
In Jefferson City can be real challenging.
Okay, that makes me feel better because I struggled with it and I felt like an idiot. It's like, man, I just don't get it.
And it gets back to, yes, it is. And it's not Hannah got stuck in it one time. It is confusing, and I'm not picking on Hannah. I did as well. I mean, it's because of the way it's done. And what it really boils down to, MoDOT, the governor said this on the show. The governor said it on the record. He told us right here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri, it's time to consider a redesign for the tri-level. It was built when Lyndon Baines Johnson was in the White House.
And the big challenge historically...
man's been dead for years.
Over 50 years ago.
Yeah, I mean...
And the challenge historically was at the time when the tri-level was built, people wouldn't give up the right-of-way, so that's why it was kind of a patchwork design to move around some of those areas where the right-of-way wasn't available. And that's why to this day, and then after the big fire that Brian will remember that took out the structural integrity of one of the overpasses there, that changed the whole mix too. It added more confusion.
It did, and that truck driver... he basically burned alive. It was absolutely horrendous. And you still, John, the damage is still there. You can see it.
Still see the scorched concrete.
We'll take Roger's call when we come back. We're going to step aside for our last break of the show and come back with leftovers. But Roger.
way, arrows flashing another way. And I realize they have to light up the roadway to work on it. But those lights also shine right in the driver's eyes.
Oh.
It seems like some way they should be able to point those lights more down to the pavement where they're working.
I feel your pain, Roger, let me tell you.
Huh.
It was difficult getting through there, and I was scared to death.
Well, that's not good.
And I've been over that bridge hundreds and hundreds of times. I mean, I used to work in Jeff City and worked over in Montauk County, and it was just a terrible situation there last night.
John, it doesn't seem as though they'd want to be shining the lights in people's eyes. Have you experienced the same, those work lights?
Same thing when we were at the Jefferson City Chamber Gala Friday night up at the winery in Holt Summit and coming back through there, and it took us a while to get back, and traffic was backed up past the winery, and it was confusing in one lane, and like you said, all the bright work lights and all. It was kind of a scary drive that night as well.
Well,
Hannah knows. She deals with it every day.
Roger, thanks for the report. I guess there's really no way around it, though. I mean, from when we talked to the MoDOT...
Herman or Boonville.
Well, yeah, but it seemed
There's
like
your way around it.
What are you going to do, right? I mean, there were infrastructure and our infrastructure repairs that need to be made. I guess there's no way around it. But just slow down. I guess that's the word. That's the advice. Slow down.
Well, and there were the questions early on when we had the MoDOT engineers on and said, why so early? Why during the lake traffic season are you doing all this bottlenecking work and all? And their answer was pretty much that, well, that's when the contractor's available. So, okay, if that's what you say.
Hannah, do you feel validated now? Roger felt your pain too.
I do.
Yeah, that's good.
I do. It's good to know it's not just me.
And it's a reality that as people they may not know it, but one of the first signs of cataracts is glaring at night and oncoming lights. No, and we have people that are driving that are 50, 60 years old, that obviously a lot of the population, and it really does make it much more hazardous. So if you're noticing